So notes number 2 from Unit 9. The learning target for today is to construct and interpret data from a chart. So here we are looking at a dot plot. And why is it called a dot plot? Because it has dots on it. That's right. So Charlie's Food Factory currently employs 28 workers, okay? And their ages are shown in the dot plot. Answer the following questions based on this chart. So it's important to recognize what we're talking about. We have a horizontal line here with some numbers on it, and these represent the ages of workers. So we can see we have 15 to 20, and then each little tick mark must be going by ones. And so we have obviously an amount of people for 15, 16, 17, 18 based on the dots. All right, so let's see if we can get into this with the first question. How many of the workers were 18 years old? Well, let's find 18 on our number line. 15, 16, 17, right here, 18. And then all you have to do is count up the dots. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4 people that were 18 years old. If you're using the completed notes at home, I did recognize a mistake, so if you were looking at that, my apologies. That should be 4, not 3. Next up, the range. Talked about it last class. Who'd like to unmute? Who'd like to tell me in the class what the range is? Range, anybody? Cindy, talked about it this morning. Remember this one? So just like the concept of range, what does it mean that we're doing? Yes, excellent. The largest minus the smallest. So who's the old fart in the factory? Well, they're 42. This must be a young man's job. So 42 minus, and who's the baby? All the way down to 16, all right? So what is the range in ages? Well, 42 minus 16 would be 26, all right? So difference of 26. I kind of think the teaching profession is interesting. I started off when I was 23, and usually people retire anywhere between 55 and 60. So the teaching range is actually quite large, sometimes over 30 years difference between a first-year teacher and maybe a teacher that's looking to retire. I am not 55, Carly. You were here on my birthday. Come on now. Just had it 2 weeks ago. I did reach the big 4-0 now, but geez, I'm not that old. I wish I was. I'd be out of here. All right. I like it though, Carly. Keep it up. Keep the razzing going here. All right, letter C, the mean, the average. Remember, this is where we add up all of the numbers and then divide by how many there are. Luckily, they already told us that, so we don't have to figure that out. But the average is 22. Why is this average, and let me see if nope, not working. Why is my average not representative of a typical worker? All right, well, let's look at the data. 22 is right here. Oh boy, that doesn't look very good. Oh boy. Let's undo that. Whew. How about we just use the regular eraser? There we go. 22. So if this line represents 22, all right, that's the average. How does that not really represent the typical worker? What are we seeing here, guys? Yeah, there is only one person, but when we think about where the dots are, where are most of our dots? Before that, right? Look at all these dots right here. I wish I had my highlighter. Of course, my board isn't giving me the highlighter option right now. But look at all those dots on the right side of 22. So that's where most of our workers are. Most of them are under 22. So how did the average get to be so high? We talked about it last class. You got to be careful of outliers and numbers that will bring up your average. So here we go. This is not, just disappeared on me. Where'd it go? Let's try that one more time. Is anybody else seeing this? Oh, it's going behind. I see where it's going. All right, this has got to go to the back. There it is. Okay. Sorry, some smartboard clear touch magic going on here. No, I don't want that. I want this. There we go. So this is not the best representation because most of the workers are less than 22 years old, and the older ages are increasing the average. All right, well, a histogram shows the ages of workers in Charlie's Food Factory. Yeah, maybe it's like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory here. How many workers have ages between 19 and 21 years old? That's our first question. Well, before we get to that answer, let's make sure we understand what's going on. We get the title of the histogram, which is always good to have, Ages of Workers at Charlie's Food Factory. On the x-axis, on the vertical or on the horizontal, we have the age ranges. So this does not actually tell us the age, it tells us a range. So between 16 and 18, 19 and 21, 22 and 24. And then over on this side, we have the number of workers. So number of workers is on the y or vertical axis. So now we have a better understanding of what we're talking about here, what we're looking at. Now let's answer the question. How many workers have ages between 19 and 21? Well, 19 and 21 is right here. Follow it up, and it's in between 10 and 12. So that must make it 11. So go ahead and put 11 down for your answer. And you're just reading and interpreting data, okay? So we're not going to do a ton of this. Obviously, this is kind of common sense, but just kind of helping you with some of the trickier things about it. Like, how many workers are 17 years old? Well, 17 would fall right in the middle of 16 and 18. But here's the thing. We don't know exact ages. Unlike the dot plot, when these represented just one number, the bars of a histogram sometimes represent more than one age. So you can't say for sure. The 9 workers could be 16, 17, or 18. So that would be a disadvantage of a histogram compared to a dot plot because you can't tell for sure. Sorry, folks. I just want to grab that right there. You can't tell for sure how old the workers are in a histogram. The advantage would be like looking at that bar and saying, okay, that's 11, and this is 9, and this is 2, 2, definitely 1. What would this be right here? What would that number be if there's no bar at all? John, what do you think? If this is 9, 11, 2, 2, 1, what would that be? Yeah, that'd be nothing, all right? Nothing there, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So the advantage of a histogram is that it's easier to read the data on the y-axis. On that vertical axis, it's very easy to see compared to the dot plot, which you got to count each and every single dot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Clearly, I made a mistake when I was making the note sheet, so that made it more difficult for you at home to probably see as well. All right. So dot plot, histogram, and all we have left is we're going to construct our own histogram. Central Square varsity basketball team that had an excellent season. They compiled a 15-5 record, 15 wins and 5 losses. Sadly, we didn't have fans in attendance for basketball games. I know a lot of you like to participate in the flock, and hopefully we'll have that back next year. But to construct a histogram, let's look at the point totals they scored during their 20 games. And to do this, we're going to make a tally sheet and then come up with the frequency for how many times that happened. So we're just going to go through, and it's very important that as you go through, you kind of make sure you eliminate that number from putting it in the chart more than once, and that we get every single number. So there's 20 games, and let's make sure we keep that in mind as we fill out our frequency table. So first one, 76, I'm going to cross it off and then insert a tally. And then 55, tally. 76, whew, tally. 64, and as we just continue to go through this, I'm not going to keep talking so that you can concentrate. Complete focus on what you're trying to do so that you don't make any mistakes. Because somebody talking while you're doing this would be very, very annoying, especially if they were just saying things to keep talking to kind of prove their point. That talking would be very difficult to do this at the same time you were trying to construct this. It's like somebody counting when you're trying to see how many people are in one spot. Because that would be super rude of somebody to talk the entire time you were constructing this table. Oh, one person got it. Thank you, Carly. All right, I'll stop. And let's just make sure you have what I have. And remember, when you get the 5 tallies, diagonal line to count up that group of 5, and that makes it easier to count. So, how many 40s did you have? I had 3. How many 50s did you have? I had 8. And then 6 times they scored in the 60s, only 2 in the 70s, and I didn't see any 80s, and there was one game that got really hot and scored in the 90s. Now, one thing you might want to do to double check yourself, count these up, or add these up for that matter, and see if you get back to 20. 3 plus 8 is 11. 11 plus 6 is 17. 17 plus 1 is 19. 19 plus 1 is 20. Ta-da! We've reached our total of 20. Now it's time to construct the histogram. And I'll just have some important parts here, and those important parts are labels. So on the y-axis, that always goes with the frequency. So how many times we did it. And when we break up this axis, it's important to do some planning, all right? We want to make sure that we do this right. So let's count from, 0 right here, how many lines we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now, clearly I can fit in what I need to, which is 8, but can I go by 2s if I only have 15 lines? Yeah, no, going by 2s would be a bad idea. So let's just count by 1s. Sometimes we can. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll stop talking because I wouldn't want to mess Carly up when she's counting, because that would be terrible to count while somebody else is trying to count. 13, 17, 112, 62, 91. I just was going to do it till I saw a comment or heard one. All right, so we've labeled our y-axis. Let's label the x-axis. When labeling the x-axis, it's good to kind of plan out your thoughts. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intervals. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've got 15 lines. So here, instead of going by 1s, it would be better to go by 2s. So I'm going to break these up into bars that have a width of 2. And then I'll come back and I'll fill in the intervals. All right, once your intervals are labeled, once your frequency is down, all we got to do is make the bars. So for the 40s, we did that 3 times. So go up to 3, over, and then back down. And if you want to make them cool or different, go ahead and put some slashes through. You don't need any space between 0 and the first bar for a histogram. And for your histogram, the bars touch, unlike your bar graph. So for the very next one, we're going to go up to 8. So 8, over, and then back down. And then just continue in that fashion. There you have it. After you complete the bar for each frequency, you should be able to clearly see the data for how many times you scored